All right. Well, today we have a crucial lesson in divergence. So we're going to talk about divergence. Divergence is one of the key self-fulfilling prophecies that once again corroborates to our essential thesis. Now, I waited until I had a really clear example of it where it counted most. It's on the DXY. We see a clear divergence confirmation this week, and that is what is exciting to talk about. It basically, in a way, without, getting too deterministic, but still acknowledging a certain amount of confluence with this bearish Gartley, right? Because we can see that the trend is coming to an end for a reason relating to the RSI. So we have literally not even talked too much about RSI because it's one of those things where you're basically just looking for that moment of divergence. Until then, it's like, oh, great, it's just aligned. So here's where the divergence is versus the alignment. So normally you're looking at the RSI and you're seeing, you could say that you're seeing, here, already right away. This is a divergent point. Just right away, here's a perfect example. This sucker is going up, right? This sucker's going up, but look at this. This is going down. That's a perfect example of some divergence. So it indicates that this trend, which is why it's funny, how long have I been saying that the DXY is going to reverse? Well, I've been saying it for a really long time, and it's because you had this divergence initially on this trend. So early on in the beginning of this trend, you were already starting to see signs of weakness in the RSI with just a straight up divergence. But look how the RSI has harmonic patterns. Oh, what do you see? We're both looking right at it. The M, you see that M. Oh, what does the M do? Exactly. Yep. But look at the shape that's forming here, if you can see that. Do you see a massive W, right? Do you see this W shape right here? Because look at this. Here's what I'm looking at. That M swings itself right into a bearish W pattern, right? So what does that bearish W pattern do? It sends them straight to hell. But what is this? See, this just keeps going. This is why you got it. This is going to be, that's an M, right? That's a deep crab M. See this? Here we go. I'm doing this. I'm going here, man. Like, look at this. This is a deep crab M. I mean, this is like literally the deep crab. See? Look at the deep crab. What does it trigger? A perfect crazy uptrend on the RSI. But here's what's interesting. Do we see divergence here? We see this sucker topped out. Look at this. You can see a number over here. See this number, 74, right? Just use those for reference points. Up here with this price level. And then you have a higher price level here, but you have a lower price level here. So that's bearish divergence. That's signaling, once again, weakness in the trend. And then you see the bearish W on the RSI all the way kicking back. Look at that, right? And we know that's going to send them down. So you got a bearish W sending them down, sending them right into an M. I know, I'm literally being this meticulous because look at the perfect case that I'm drawing here. Just stay with it, right? You got an M kicking them up. You expect that M to spring them off. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. But the point is, the top of this M is now losing strength against this trend here because as this trend increases relatively significantly here, this was a powerful move. You would expect it to be reflected a little bit more in the RSI, and it might be. It still may be. But I think we'll get more bearish divergent signals on the RSI because we're starting to see a confirmation of one here. The confirmation being this price level triggers a higher RSI than this price level, which triggers a lower RSI as the price continues higher. Divergence, right? And then once again, just to annoy you even further, look at a perfect W pattern right there. So what do we think is forming here? Well, we probably think an M is forming here, right? Right? What does an M do? Springs them off. But if we're getting bearish divergence and we want confirmation, or we're expecting confirmation rather, we want it, but we're expecting it as well, then you could have a situation here on the RSI where you're getting less momentum, because as this descends, you're losing momentum. The closer you are to the 50 level, you're losing momentum in the trend. So as this trend may continue to complete that bearish Gartley, if it wants to extend a little bit further, then it's possible that trend is not completed yet, because we still have a little bit more headroom to the downside on the RSI, if that makes sense. You can see this is sort of forming maybe a W here, right? You kind of see that, right? And then maybe an M, right? Deep crab sort of situation, but a W here, right? So if this is a W harmonic forming on the RSI, you can definitely see this RSI is losing a lot of strength. So no matter how much higher this price pumps, it's getting pulled back to reality by the fact that the RSI now could be confirming a bearish divergence. So that is what is exciting to see right now. And it corroborates the idea of this bearish Gartley pattern. And what does all this mean? It means that some things are setting up very favorably. And let's talk about RSI in those favorable conditions. Of course, you knew I was going to talk about, because now NuCypher is getting, I was patient, right? And now NuCypher is getting in, like, I like it now. 37 cents. Like, it was like 40 cents last week. And I was like, yeah. Now it's like, okay. And here's the thing. Do we see any bullish divergence? Do we see any divergence to write home about on NuCypher? Well, we actually see a lot of it. A lot of bullish divergence. Maybe my eyes are just like, biased, but like that's why I make white knuckle, so you can tell me if you're seeing these or not seeing these. So let's check this out, right? This is NuCypher making lower lows, right? Lower lows. Low, lower low, low. What happens here? Low. You get to that next lower low. Oh, divergence. It's a higher low on the RSI, right? So that's basic divergence. Obviously forming an M. You could have expected this, but is there any divergence here? No, there's not. There's no divergence here. This is like basic alignment, RSI alignment. So you have higher, high, higher, high, basic alignment. Forming that M, the interesting part is that you have divergence here. You have bullish divergence on the RSI. And then look at this. Now you have just basic alignment here. You have a higher low, and good. And you have almost a higher low, just a slight higher low here. So judge that distance with your own eyes. You know what I'm saying, right? And now NuCypher is getting low again. And I think, look at that. See how it's holding above, just barely above where it held last time when it got down to this level. And then look how much lower the price is, right? So that is very, very bullish, right? So what could be forming here? Well, these M's and W's work in interesting ways. But what could be forming here, I might see a W pattern here, right? It's bearish, but that makes sense, right? Oh, you know what I'm saying? Because in the time that this W forms, well, if this is going up, if the relative strength index is going up, yes, that means the price of NuCypher is going up as well. So that's how these go together, right? Just another confluent thing to consider. Harmonic patterns are an all line trend thingies. They're literally that intrinsic. That's the point, just like Fibonacci is, right? I would even say harmonic patterns go deeper than Elliott waves. I actually think the harmonic patterns might be more intrinsic and basic. I think the Elliott waves might be a slight complexity, but I align with Elliott waves because I like the fives. Fives are good. But the point is, all of these different techniques, all of them are just corroboration points. They're your tools, right? You put them all together and you create your own tool using all of them, because to some extent, every indicator, Fibonacci, RSI, waves, any of that, ABC corrections, those are all to some extent self-fulfilling prophecies. That's all it comes down to. Might as well get hip to all the self-fulfilling prophecies and sort of use your own logic to weave, your best bet, your creative whole story of what you think might be happening based on your understanding of all these different self-fulfilling prophecies. That's sort of the thing that's like the flavor of it. You're aiming for like, oh, what's a self-fulfilling prophecy? I that's all I talk about here, right? Didn't Dick Loverin make an album where the song is called self-fulfilling prophecy? Literally, didn't he do that? I swear to God he did. So go check for yourself. All right, dude. So what are we talking about? You know, all I'm saying is sitting tight. I'm sitting tight. I'm biding my time. I am in no rush to actualize. Literally, because I'm just buying. I'm just like now. Oh, great. One of my favorite little coins is now in a price level where I'm licking my lips now, right? Before I'm like, now I'm like, okay, right? And I have, we've been basically saving up, right? Because remember Zcash? Oh, I told you I sold all that, right? And I was early, but look where Zcash is now, dude. And we talked about it on harmonic patterns. I don't even need to reiterate, but that one worked out pretty nicely. Well, not that I want anybody's coin to go down, but you could see that, Zcash was forming. All right, fine. We'll look at it. It's like a deep reverse crab, dude. Well, you could think of this in a couple different ways. All of them are bearish. All of them are bearish. Like the most basic bearish one that I see jumping out, deep crab. That's the basic one. But I think you could do another bearish, because these are all fractal shapes, remember? These are all fractal shapes. So this one is basically just another sort of corroboration point of the bearish W formation that's forming, right? But I do think you might, look at this. So this triggers a nice perfect sell-off. This is a great moment to buy Zcash. And so look at this. Let's just talk about basic altcoin corroboration. I love this stuff. Zcash kind of looks like it's setting up. Right? You know what I mean? A lot of these charts look like they're setting up. I don't think necessarily NuCypher looks as good as Zcash does. People are looking at Zcash and being like, yes, finally a dip to buy Zcash because they didn't buy it here. And I can see that because I'm starting to think it, right? Whole game of self-fulfilling prophecies here, right? And what does the friggin' RSI tell us? I mean, it tells us maybe you're forming like a W situation. And look how on the RSI, W is often a good thing because the RSI it's a relativity game and you're looking for trends, and those trends can be identified as M's and W's, and we see them everywhere. Just keep your eyes open for those. And maybe something like this, right? I don't know, just making up stuff, right? Dumps it, right? Or something. So anyway, the classic idea of like if the altcoins are setting up, and you can look at the local structures of any given altcoin, and it looks like you could make a bullish case. Let's just do another random one. What chart have I not looked at in a really long time? I'm just I just ADA. I never look at ADA. I'm not in it, but let's just take it for an example. Let's just look at it as an example. What do we see if we just look at an example, right? Let's think. I mean, on a basic level, it's got upside. Let's say that. On a freaking basic level, it's got upside. I mean, how much upside? The basics. Let's go so basic first and then work our way into slightly more complexity. Yeah. So, yeah. If you want to make a good, nice, perfect. Who wouldn't do this, right? This is great. Like on the 702 retracement, you may have to wait a while for that to happen. Who cares? That's the point. This is easy money on ADA. Now, the reason I'm only giving it that 702 prophecy is because it's already moved so much on this particular bull run, and it's above its all-time high. That's the major point. It's above the previous all-time high. That's the major point. So I'm looking, Dash is why I love, EOS, OMG, Zcash. Those are ones I like because they haven't, XLM, XRP, those have shit tons of upside because they haven't broken that all-time high. But, ADA looks like it's kind of like early. And so that, in my mind, works against it a little bit. So that's why I would only if I'm like trying to be a calculated safe trader move, I would make a bet that it could go to the 702, and that's a nice little return right there. But also 1618, we talked about it. It's very, very oftenly fulfilled, and so I'm, you better be expecting to take profits on anything at 1618, but I think you'd be lucky to see ADA up that high, but that is my conservative outlook on that. And I'm looking here. Let's go back to NuCypher to make a point of another bigger macro RSI. Here's the trippy part, right? Get ready to lose your mind. Look at NuCypher. It's not had bearish divergence on the RSI on all of the three major highs. 1, 2, 3. Dude, you know what you're waiting for on NuCypher right now? You're waiting for a bearish divergence on the RSI, and that bearish divergence is going to correspond to a massively high price. You know, realistically, the 1618. I mean, that's my target for NuCypher was always somewhere around like that 330 level. But then when it popped this one off, well, you know, I thought it was probably okay. Like now you're setting up for a bigger bullish situation. So I still think 1618 is like that's basically the next place I want to take profits on NuCypher. But I'll probably be smart and I'll take profits off at the 702. I'll definitely be smart and I'll take profits off at the 702. But like white knuckle all the way to the 1618, easy, you know. And like realistically, you better be leaving tables. You better leave some on the table for up in these levels because that's the kind of situation we're expecting, especially considering the RSI situation here, where you have no bearish divergence, none. But I would expect to see bearish divergence on the next NuCypher pump. Wherever that next big candle hits to, it's going to be like 2 or 3 day candle. Literally, like it literally won't last very long. Whatever that big, massive setup ends up being up to, we'll look at where it is on the RSI. And if it pops the RSI really close to this level, but it's lower and the price is higher than here, you know, you're at the 1618, say you're up in, you know, that 364 price level, but then down here on the RSI, you're like maybe below 90, you know, then we'll kind of have an idea. Oh, maybe that was the final blast on NuCypher, you know, you'll have to wonder that. So it's going to be interesting to see how these play out. But what we're doing here is we're looking for all the different indicators from history. That's why NuCypher is such a good play. The history tells us this is not over. It is not over for NuCypher. But like by comparison, when you see bearish divergence, you know it's over for Bitcoin. Look how easy this bearish divergence is right here. You popped it way high on the RSI. And then you never, ever made it higher again with 2 higher price levels. So that's the end of that, right? But definitely, everything we ever said is still intact with Bitcoin. You're still making your way. You're grinding up to that 702. It's literally perfect because look how ugly these Elliott waves are, but they are there. No question they are there. And this W formation is here, right? So this is like, yeah, this is a bearish formation, but it's so deeply inside of this self-fulfilling harmonic pattern here that it's, you know, like we're literally in a way being conservative thinking that like, you know, it's only going to go up to the 702. Something could happen where it does go higher. But you know what? I'm definitely not in that mindset, especially because of the RSI. Like the RSI is telling us the facts. It's telling us the facts that you saw this and then you saw this divergence right here, and that was the moment to sell. That's like literally what the RSI. I didn't do that. I'm not saying I did that, but I'm learning from, you know, history, and that's like how this works, right? You're getting that divergence on the RSI, and I'm sure when you get up to that 702 level, you're going to have some strong divergence probably with this peak, right? Because this was like that other peak situation, and you're going to probably see kind of maybe an excessive, you know, small excessive peak here, and we'll be able to tell that that was in fact the end of that B leg because it's going to be lower than this on the RSI, and maybe it won't be, and then we'll deal with that. But more realistically, it will be, you know, based on all the other confluences we've talked about. The RSI is just kind of another box to check. I haven't really talked about it too much because it's just in line, you know, it's very much in line, but now you're getting key bearish divergence. That's what's exciting, right? That key bearish divergence on the daily chart of the DXY. I'm looking at the DXY daily chart. You have clear bearish divergence. It does not get more clear than that, right? Look at this, 77 on the RSI. Look at this up in the 702 region, you know. Oh, let's go even higher. Let's keep going up to the one level, complete the whole cycle there, and look how much lower you are in the RSI, and you form this perfect W that's going to send them down a bit. So if you have downside on the RSI, you may have upside on the actual asset itself, but you will see the weakness in that movement through the RSI, and the RSI is just another self-fulfilling prophecy. All right, wow, so that ended up being like, I thought this was going to be like a quick video. I think this was way too long, or just long enough, because I'm just showing, I want everyone to see what I see. And if what I see is not really there, then I want to find out that it's not really there. And that's what I'm doing by making YouTube videos. That's really my underlying principle. It's the same thing with the music. It's like, These are the patterns that I'm seeing. If you don't see them, let's have a conversation, dude. Literally. So
It's almost time to solidify.